How to market a niche SaaS product when no one is searching for it. Let's get into this. So before we do that, let's get into a slide just about me. So I'm Ryan, I'm the founder of Rocket SaaS. We are a marketing agency, especially for B2B SaaS companies. I've worked with over 120 different B2B SaaS companies, many of which have had a niche SaaS product. And it's quite hard to market a niche SaaS product if nobody is searching for it. So I am an expert in doing that. I've had a lot of clients that have gone on that journey. So I thought, it's about time that I made a webinar about teaching you guys how you can do it yourself. I've scaled my business from 0 to 2 million in annual recurring revenue. I've done it 100% with inbound marketing. This is the growth of my agency. And a lot of the things that I'm going to teach you today, yes, it's about marketing a niche SaaS product, but it's also about a lot of the fundamentals of marketing, a lot of the philosophies that have helped me really scale my business. I am also the host of the SaaS Marketing Weekly podcast. A lot of you will already be listeners, I'm sure. But if you like what you hear, if you think I know what I'm talking about on this webinar, then you're really going to like the podcast. So every Tuesday, I do a podcast giving SaaS marketing tips, how you can scale your business, how you can do better marketing campaigns to get leads. So check that out. It's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, usual places that you would listen. But let's get into the topic of today. So in terms of the chapters that we're going to go through, there's 8 chapters we're going to cover today. One is why most niche SaaS marketing fails. The second one is selling the shift in thinking, not the software. You versus competition, in quotation marks, because it's not traditional competition. Get narrow is really important for niche businesses. Build use case funnels for each segment. Leverage founder-led content to generate demands. Sync ads with outbound for maximum impact. And also creating a validation, like a test budget. If you're still not sure who to go after, I recommend creating a test budget, which we're going to get onto in that chapter 8, that final chapter. But first of all, let's go into chapter 1. Why most niche SaaS marketing fails. So when you have a niche SaaS product, it's particularly challenging because no one is looking for it. That's the title of the webinar. So let me explain that. So your biggest problem isn't your competition. Your biggest problem is that your ideal customers, they don't know your product exists because you're a small business, you don't have a big marketing budget. They don't know that they have a problem. Now, this is particularly key. If you created a niche SaaS product, then it's very likely that the people that you're targeting, they don't even know they've got a problem. So if they don't know they've got a problem, then they're not going to be looking for a product. And also, they don't know that there is a better way to be doing things. So I'm going to get into examples of what I mean by that in a minute. But your target audience, a couple of interesting stats for you here. So 20% of your target audience, they know that they have a problem, but they are not seeking a solution. So let me try and give you an example. Let's say if you are a construction tech company and you are targeting people that work on construction sites to help them streamline their processes. The thing that you're going up against is that those people will be managing their construction sites on pen and paper, spreadsheets, WhatsApp messages between their teams, and they know that it's a problem. Like, they know that it's not ideal. They know it takes a lot of time. They know it's annoying. They know that there's potential, risks of things getting forgotten, but they are not searching for a solution. Meaning that they're not Googling, they're not searching things. So there's about 20% of your audience that are in that pool there. Then you've got an even bigger slice of your audience, about 60% of your target audience, they're not even aware that they've got a problem or that a solution is available. So to use the same example of those construction people that are using spreadsheets and pen and paper, they don't even realize it's a problem. They've been doing it their whole career. They've been trained on how to do it that way. The business has always done it this way. So if people are in that mindset, they're not going to be searching for a solution. So that's why marketing needs to change when you have a niche SaaS product, because people are literally not looking for it. So these channels will not work if people are not looking for your solution. Google ads, Bing ads, SEO. So if you're investing into these channels and they're not working, it's potentially because people are not searching for your solution. So those channels, Google, being SEO, they are for users who have got awareness of the problem and they've got intent to buy. So they know that solutions like yours are available. Your problem, your challenge is most of your target audience don't know that. So you may have a balance. You may have a small percentage of your audience who are looking. So you can run a small budget on these channels. But the majority, if your product is niche, the majority of your target audience are not going to be on these channels. So you need to put the majority of your budget somewhere else, which I'm going to get into on the other chapters. So another thing that won't work for you is bottom of the funnel LinkedIn ads to a cold audience will not work. When I say cold audience, I mean people that have never ever heard of you before. So people do not want to book a demo if they are not even aware that they have a problem. So if you create ads that look like this, we have a great product, book a demo today. If I don't even think I've got a problem, I'm not aware I've got a problem, I'm never going to book a demo of the product of some solution. So if you've run these LinkedIn ads before and they haven't worked, again, I'm not surprised. So that's the bad news, chapter 1. But the good news, chapter 2 to 8, is this is how you solve that and overcome that. So chapter 2, sell the shift in thinking, not the software. All right, so you want to lead with the problem, not the product. People are not looking for a product, but you can teach them about the problem. You can teach them this is the problem that your business has, whether you know it or not, or this is the impact that this problem is creating in your business. Then you introduce your solution after they figure that out. So you don't want to show a cold audience your UI, your features. You want to start by making them understand the problem and make that problem feel real and urgent. So you want to show them why the current way is holding them back, what a better approach looks like results-wise, and how others in the industry are making this switch. And then once you've got that message across, you then introduce your product as the enabler afterwards. I'm going to show you examples of other brands that are doing it in this way to give you some really good examples. So examples of how to lead with a problem. So your content should feel like it's written by someone who deeply understands their pain, not a salesperson that's trying to flog you a software. So it's really going earlier in the buying journey. It's realizing that they've got a problem. So examples might be creating content that says something along the lines of most industry teams are still doing process manually and it's costing them hours every week. So that's a key thing. What I'm pretty sure most of your SaaS products, of people that are on this webinar, your product will help people save time. It will help them save hours. If your prospects are doing things on pen and paper spreadsheets, Microsoft Word, multiple different platforms, it's all siloed data, that is costing you time. It's costing their team time, and therefore it's costing them money. So you need to create content that educates them about this time and how much it's actually costing them. Another one would be if you're relying on spreadsheets to do X process, you're falling behind your competitors. So again, that's a very good piece of cut through content to teach people that your competitors are doing it much quicker, particularly with the advancement of AI and automations that we're going through. A lot of people will be worried that their competitors are going to be doing things faster. So you want to put a little bit of scaremongering there. Another one, still relying on spreadsheets. That's how data breaches and $50,000 mistakes happen. So again, a bit of scaremongering always works well in marketing. Another one being, if you're managing projects across multiple tools, that's messy. It's costing you revenue. A lot of you have probably got some sort of a SaaS platform that's an all-in-one solution. So you're trying to explain to people that having multiple tools to manage your projects or processes, that's not great. That is costing you revenue. Another one, again, scaremongering. If you don't back up your data, you are non-compliant. I imagine there's a lot of SaaS platforms out there, people on this call, who are helping people become compliant. If they're doing things in a certain way, like spreadsheets, pen and paper, they are at serious risk, like their insurance could be invalid, that kind of thing. So you want to really be honing in on the problem that people are suffering from, losing time, losing money, becoming non-compliant. That kind of messaging really cuts through well. So if you are struggling in terms of understanding what problem that you should be leading with and what content that you should be creating, one of my favorite exercises, I talk about this a lot, it's a really powerful exercise, is to write down 100 different problems that your target audience suffers from. So go into a meeting room, get a whiteboard. If you don't have that, just do it with pen and paper. I know it's a big ask to do 100 different problems, but it's a really, really rewarding exercise. So you want to put yourself in the mind of your ideal customer and think about what keeps them up at night. What burning problems do they have in their business? All ideally, relatively closely related to your product. And when you've got 100 different ones, you can start to circle the ones that you think are particularly burning problems, particularly closely related to your product. And then you have a list of content that you can start to create in terms of educating and helping your target audience solve those problems that will position you as an expert in the space. So that's a really good exercise I recommend you do. But how do you find the right problem to lead with? So interviewing your customers, presuming that you have customers. If you don't have customers, I'll get onto that in a minute. But if you have customers already, there is absolute gold in their knowledge. So interview your customers, speak to your customer success team if you've got that. If you don't have a customer success team, reach out to them yourself and just ask if they can just spare 15 minutes to jump on a call with you and just get some deep insight as to where they were with their mindset before they started working with you. What problems were they suffering from? Why did they choose to work with you? If you don't have any customers, you can use surveying tools. Or even if you do have customers, it's still good to survey the market. So there's tools like Winter or Polefish where you can create a questionnaire like a survey and you can survey it out to all of your potential ideal customers and they can answer these questions for you. So you want to be understanding where were they? What position were they at before they found you? What problems were they suffering from? What issues did the business have? How much time, how much money, how much compliance issues were they suffering from? What did they hate about that process? What was that kind of emotional distress that they were going through? And what finally made them switch? So when you start to write all of these content ideas down, you're going to have all of the knowledge to be able to actually create this content and start making some noise in the industry. And you can turn those insights into pain-led content. So for example, content that would start by saying something like, most job titles are still stuck doing X. Or if you're using old method, here's what you're missing. Or why this common process doesn't scale. Those are all the sorts of things that get really good engagement at the top of the funnel. So you want to create content to educate people about their problems and how to solve them without your solution. So you don't want all of your content to be, oh, have a demo of our product. Our product solves that solution. You want to be teaching people and educating people how they can solve their problems without your solution. So examples of types of content that you can do it: LinkedIn posts, short form videos, founders' point of view perspective, blogs, carousels, slideshow, email mini series, webinars, roundtables, podcasts, customer stories, PDF guides, scorecards, assessment. So think about this content that you're consuming right now. So I've identified that my target audience, if they've got a niche SaaS product, they're struggling to market it, they're struggling to generate leads. So instead of me creating a ton of content that says, I'll work with my agency, Rocket SaaS, we're a great marketing agency, we're going to help you market your niche product. Instead, I'm creating a webinar where I'm teaching you how you can do it yourself. I'm also creating other forms of content, like pretty much all 12 of these we're doing for this particular topic. So what does that do? Yes, that helps a ton of people do it themselves. And it means that a lot of people won't go on to work with us because I've taught them how to do it themselves, but it's creating a funnel. There'll be enough people that are consuming this type of content and going, this sounds great. Rocket SaaS seems to be very knowledgeable on this topic. I don't want to do it myself because I don't have the time. I would rather spend money to get someone like Rocket SaaS to do it. I'm going to speak to Rocket SaaS. I'm going to work with them. So, and it's the same for you. You want people to see you as an expert in the space that has solved this problem for many other businesses before. Teach them. You become a thought leader so they know who to work with when they're ready to spend the money. It's all about that kind of demand generation philosophy. So examples of problem leading content. So this is one of our clients here at Rocket SaaS. They're called Control Hub. So they have a all-in-one SaaS platform for safety and compliance. And this is a top of funnel ad. So you can see that this ad here that goes out on LinkedIn it's not showing the product. You can't see any product UI. We're not talking about the features. We're not even hardly talking about the product at all. The messaging is quite clear. We're talking about the problem. And you're still managing safety and compliance with paper and spreadsheets. Track everything in one platform. We're trying to hone into the problem that people are suffering from. If we created ads that was purely just about the product, we wouldn't get the clicks, we wouldn't get the engagement. It's all about honing in on the problem. So when people click on that ad, it takes them to a landing page, which goes into more detail about why managing your safety and compliance on paper and spreadsheets is causing issues. And then it introduces the product as like the next stage as you scroll down. Another example, a different Rocket SaaS client here called SurveySphere. So they have a product that allows people to do property inspections remotely. So traditionally, for hundreds of years that property inspections have been around, the property inspector has to arrive on site in their car and then drive to the next site. Whereas with SurveySphere, you can just sit in your bedroom and do it from home. So this is we've created a comparison ad here. Stop traveling to property inspections. Time for remote inspections with SurveySphere. So this is the old way of doing it here. You have to travel to a location, do the inspection, travel to another location, do another inspection. Whereas with SurveySphere, you can just do inspection, and you save so much time and so much money, and you can scale your business rapidly. So again, we're just talking about the problem. We're not showing the product at all at this stage. Another example, another client at Rocket SaaS called FOM. They're also in the construction space. So we identified by talking to their existing customers, we said, what were you doing before you started using our software? A lot of them said that they were basically managing their construction communication via WhatsApp. Every builder on site would have a WhatsApp group together. And that was just causing so many issues. So that was the first ad that we created to target people. Stop managing site updates through WhatsApp. There's a better way. Let's talk. So all three of these ads, not showing the product at all, starting with the problem. That will take people to either landing pages, blogs, sometimes webinars, to just teach them more about the problem and how they can solve it. And then we can retarget those people to then take them to the bottom of the funnel. So these are the sorts of ads that get a lot of engagement because people care more about their problems than they do about your solution. But when people click on the ads, if you understand how LinkedIn retargeting ads work, we can put the pool of people that clicked on those ads, retarget them to be a little bit further down the bottom of the funnel, case studies, then we retarget them again. That's when we start to show them the software and the solution. But you really have to take people down a journey and a funnel that always leads with the problem. That's the key thing about this kind of whole messaging here, or this whole chapter anyway. Right, moving on to chapter 3, which is you versus the competition. Now, this is not the kind of traditional competition of other businesses, because when you have a very niche product, your kind of other SaaS businesses is not usually the biggest challenge here. The biggest challenge is, not necessarily who you think. Most of the time, you're not going to be losing to another SaaS product. If you are not landing customers, it's not because they're going to someone else. It's because they are doing nothing. They are just they're looking at you and they go, you know what, looks fine, but we're just going to continue doing what we're doing right now. That's most common. Or continue to do the whole spreadsheet thing. Or that AI automation sounds good, but no, we're fine with manual processes. It's probably all right. Or that attitude of we'll deal with this later. Essentially, it's the status quo of people just sticking with what they've got already. That is your biggest competition. And when I say status quo, I don't mean these guys. All of the younger audience on this webinar probably frowning, not knowing what the hell I'm talking about. The older generation will know who I'm talking about. It's a band called Status Quo. They're rubbish. I'll move on. But yeah, you want to make the status quo look risky. You want to articulate how staying with the status quo, doing things manually, not using AI and automations or continuing to use spreadsheets, paper, whatever, that is a high risk to your business. And you've got a lot of leverage with that because the way that the world is rapidly changing so fast with technology and AI, a lot of people should start to understand that just doing things the way they're doing things is not good. And you can push people in that direction with the content that you create. So to win against doing nothing, you need to raise the stakes, essentially. You need to highlight the inefficiencies. You need to quantify hidden costs. You need to show how others have already moved on. Your buyer should be thinking, okay, we can't do it this way any longer. We need to move on. So highlighting inefficiencies, you can create content that talks about how your team spends X number of hours a week chasing updates in spreadsheets. It's nearly a full day lost of output per person. Or quantifying hidden costs, you can put a value on things. Manual data entry errors can cost businesses an average of 100K in rework and lost revenue. Or the one at the bottom there could be about teams like our client automated this and cut reporting by 80%. Those sorts of messages can really resonate with people because you want people to be like nodding their head going, yeah, that sounds like us. And we're spending so much time on these things. So that kind of content just help people move away from the status quo. So examples of changing from the status quo of how you can convince people. So another one of our clients here at Rocket SaaS. So they do backup. So they back up your Google Workspace, your Microsoft 365, etc., among other things. So we create ads to say, if you use Google Workspace, you are at risk of phishing, ransomware, data loss. You should back up your data today. So again, not showing the product, a bit of scaremongering in there. Most people that are on Google Workspace are not backing up their data. They're just doing the status quo. They think it's fine. Whereas we're educating people that, no, you are at risk if you keep just doing what you're doing. Another one of our clients here at Rocket SaaS called Aslan. So a lot of people, anyone that's got UK employees, the national insurance hike that just went up recently, if you have got UK employees, yeah, your bill has just gone up. So we created ads here to talk about how much your national insurance has probably gone up, and you can just swallow that and pay that if you want, or you can work with Aslan to reduce that bill, get that bill down by using pension salary sacrifice. So it's just talking about those pain points, talking about what is wrong with you just sticking with the current way of doing things. So again, this is an example of LinkedIn ads that we created. You would click on these, it either takes you to landing pages to explain the business in more detail in terms of getting people to the bottom of the funnel, or it's blogs, it's webinars, that kind of thing, to just teach and educate more about the problem. Another objection that you're going to get a lot is essentially, I can't be bothered to switch. So what does that really mean? People will be looking at your product and thinking, that looks really good, but I'm not in that much of a pain point to switch. That sounds like a real headache. I can't be asked to spend the time. It's probably going to take hours and days. It's going to rip up my existing system. I can't be bothered. I'm too busy to do that right now. Everyone is too busy, and switching to a different product, a different solution is much more of a bigger hurdle than perhaps you would hope it to be. So you want to handle that by making the switch feel effortless and using proof that it has worked for others. So making the switch feel effortless, you want to explain to people that we can set everything up for you. Put a time frame on it. How long does it typically take a business to be onboarded? Is it under a week? Is it 2 days? Is it 15 minutes? You want to quantify and explain to people how easy it is to do that. Also, a lot of smaller SaaS businesses, which most of you are, you would be willing to take that kind of white glove approach. A lot of these big competitors that your current prospects are currently with probably don't get that white glove approach, probably don't have very good customer support, probably complaining about a lot of those things. So you can create content to explain how you're different to these big boys. You will have this white glove approach. You will get things done quickly. We will support you. We'll fully onboard you. And ideally, you will have a case study of a client that has successfully moved on. The onboarding was really smooth, and you can create like a testimonial of someone saying how amazing it was and how quick and how painless it was. That's the sort of content you want to be getting on your website, on your homepage, on your landing pages, and also in your retargeting ads as well, because that is a very common objection. People can look at your product, see it, come onto the website, watch a video, but still not fill out that book a demo form because they think, sounds like a headache, I can't be bothered. So very, very common. So you need to make sure you've got content to handle those objections. Chapter 4, getting narrow. Now, if you have a niche product, it's more important than ever to get narrow. Like if I was making a webinar targeting non-niche SaaS products, I would still recommend you get narrow, but it's more important the more niche that you are. So most SaaS marketing fails because it's too broad. I think most clients that I take on that are struggling with their lead gen, the usually the first thing that I identify that they're doing wrong is that their targeting is too broad, and that is particularly painful for niche businesses. So if you are trying to talk to too many people, it means that they'll just feel that it's not built for them, it's not particularly special, or your product will come across very broad and very vague. And that's what I hate with marketing. If I just hate coming onto a web page or seeing an ad or whatever, and it's just like, well, just that messaging is really broad, really vague. I don't know who this is for. I don't know how it benefits me. And if anyone's in that mindset, they're not going to convert. So you need to really get niche. So if you have a narrow ICP, ICP stands for ideal customer profile. If you have a narrow ICP, it means your messaging will be better because your messaging will be more targeted, and also the people that you are targeting will be much smaller. So you can get very granular in who you are targeting, and therefore your content becomes very targeted. If you do that, the conversions go up, business grows. So how do we find your narrow ICP? Similar to what I said earlier about your existing customers, there is so much gold in your existing customers. So create, go into your CRM, look at all of your existing customers and spend some time going through them and start ranking them. Start saying which of these customers bought from us really quickly, who pays their invoices on time, who sticks around for the longest time, who raves about us, who has the highest customer lifetime value, the least friction, causes us the least problems, which of our clients or group of clients will we love to just multiply and multiply, and then look for patterns. What makes them similar? Job titles, industry, team sizes. What was the event trigger that made them work for you? For example, have all of these clients recently raised funding and then they come to work with us? So you need to speak to your existing customers and just try and understand who is your narrow ICP. And then you can get very, very targeted. If you don't have customers yet, you need to run some experiments, which we're going to get into in chapter 8. But chapter 5 is about building use case funnels for each segment. Now, let's say when you've got narrow, you've figured out who your ideal customer profile is. It doesn't have to be just one. It can be multiple. It can be split across multiple job titles, industries, maybe technology that they're using. Those are the classic 3. But then you want to start building out use cases. So you want your ideal customer profile to think, this was built for me. Brilliant. So how do we do that? So even if your product does serve multiple industries or multiple job titles, that's fine. Your homepage will still come across as targeting multiple industries, and try not to make it sound broad and vague. But what I want you to do is create different funnels for each of your different target audiences. So you want to create tailored content just for them. You want to be speaking their language and ideally showing social proof from similar customers. So example here from Founder Path. So they essentially give you funding. So you can see on this landing page here, the first big header that you see, dear SaaS CFOs, we give you up to 4 million in 48 hours. Now, if you were a SaaS CFO, you would come onto that landing page and go, oh, wow, this is purpose built for me. I feel special. I'm invested. I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to keep reading. I might speak to these guys because they built it for me. Little does he or she know that there's multiple other landing pages that say things like, dear SaaS CEO, or dear retail CFO, and the list kind of goes on. But what you can do here is you can create different funnels to speak to those people, just make them feel like it was built for them. And if they feel that way, then you're in a very good position. The more engagement you're going to get from them, and the more likelihood that the leads are going to start to come in because they feel that it was built for them. So that's really, really key. I'm going to show an example of that in a minute. But yeah, what a use case funnel looks like, at very least, you want to create ads for each of your funnels. So let's say if one of your target audience is CFOs, another one is CEOs, another one is, say, project managers, you create ads that speaks to them. It literally calls out their job title in the ad. And then when you decide who you want to show those ads to, obviously with LinkedIn ads, you can target specifically those people only, as opposed to being very, very broad. So the more narrow you get, the better. So you create those ads, serve it to those people, and then when they click on that ad, they don't just come onto your homepage where it gets all broad again. They come onto a landing page that is specifically written for them. Same pain point, same language, same visuals as you were showing them in the ad. So they feel like they're going on this like smooth journey. Also, a lead magnet, or at least a call to action that is very relevant to them. And then The lead magnet that they engage with could be a webinar, could be a guide, could be an ROI calculator. You then want to nurture them. So it could be emails, could be retargeting ads, could be outbound sequences. So they just feel that they're on this dedicated special funnel that was written just for them. They may even get to the end of the funnel and they don't even realize that this product wasn't built for them. It was built for lots of different industries, but that doesn't matter. You want to make them feel that way. So an example of that in practice, so going back to one of our clients here at Rocket SaaS SurveySphere that I showed you earlier, we have one funnel where we're targeting landlords. So landlords do property inspections. SurveySphere helps multiple different use cases do property inspections, but landlords is a big one. So we start creating ads to say, landlords, stop disrupting your tenants for property inspections. You can see an example here of loads of annoying WhatsApp messages, which is what they're currently doing. So we serve those ads and we only serve them to landlords using LinkedIn targeting. Then when someone clicks on the ad, they come onto a landing page. And as you can see, the first word in the header is landlords. So again, they've come onto the page and they thought, oh yeah, this is really dedicated to me. As opposed to if I took them to the homepage, they'd be like, I'm losing interest now. So really, really targeted, dedicated content is really powerful and important for niche products. You can't let people think that it's broad and vague. And then we also built a interactive demo tool. So this is an interactive demo where someone can play with the software and just have a little tour themselves of the software. And we purpose built that for landlords. So we built multiple versions of this. We built one for property inspectors, one for landlords. And each one's got a different journey because each of those job titles care more about different features or they care less about other features. So again, all very targeted, and the messaging is very targeted as well towards landlords. And then people that engage with that, in this example, it's not gated, but if it was gated, like a thing like a webinar, the nurture sequence is very targeted towards exactly those people. So that's really key when you've got a niche product. Chapter number 6. How are we doing for time? 4:30. We're good for time. Chapter 6, leverage founder-led content to create demand. Now, this is really important. I always say that. It's all really important. But founder-led content is critical when you have a niche product. Now, your founder or founders, if they created a product that is niche, that means that they felt passionate about the old way that this is being done. So they created something new, they created something different. Therefore, they've got the knowledge, they've got the experience, they've got the passion, they've maybe got the disruptive attitude as to why you should work with us and use our new product. So it's very hard to get that kind of passion and disruption purely from a company brand. It really has to come from a person. It has to come from a human being. That's how it kind of resonates best. So you want to try and leverage the founders as much as possible. If you are the founder, then obviously, you need to put some effort into creating content yourself. If you are the marketer, you need to try and convince your founder that they should be creating more content. If your founder is not up for creating content, that's fine. I've got a little section on this later. But yeah, especially in niche markets, your founders got deep industry insights. Ideally, hopefully they've got some kind of credibility already with the target audience, and they've got opinions that will cut through the noise. If you are disrupting the market, the founder's voice is always going to hit harder. It sounds real, and it can really give authority. Like I have another client who has basically got a SaaS platform that's kind of going against the traditional recruitment model. So they used to work in recruitment. They themselves complain about the typical recruitment model that everybody hates. Fees are really expensive. You get a load of crap candidates. So they've invented a really awesome tool that can it's kind of the opposite of what recruiters do. It can go through CVs really quickly. It can validate candidates quickly. It can just do all that kind of AI automation stuff that recruitment has been screaming out to. And the founders have a really strong disruptive message. They've got a really strong opinion on why the old way sucks and why this is the future. And them creating content, doing things like podcasts and webinars and blogs is just a brilliant way for them to get that message across and create noise, maybe ruffle a few feathers, upset a few people, but that has to come from founders. It's very hard to do that from a company brand. The absolute OG, in my opinion, who has scaled a business absolutely rapidly. The marketers on the call will probably recognize this guy, Chris Walker, but he scaled his business to over 100 million in revenue in a very, very short period of time. And if you asked him, what was the kind of key thing that really grew your business from nothing to something really, really valuable? He would tell you about the disruptive content that he was creating on LinkedIn as the founder-led brand. So if you read some of these snippets here, so he's a marketer, by the way. He's moved on now. I think he's sold it, or he's become a chairman or whatever. But anyway, all this content here is again talking about the problem. So 4 years ago, I told 3 main ABM vendors they had a huge problem, and none of them ... And then this video here, go-to-market teams are interactive. They make this simple, very painful mistake. You can see how he's creating content about the problem that the industry's got and his disruptive opinion on why it's wrong, why it's broken, and why there's a new way of solving it. So a lot of his content just talks about everything that I've talked about today in terms of starting by, slagging off the old way and why it's a problem, and then you neatly to kind of lead the dance into talking about your solution as to how it's the answer to all of those problems. So founders of a real kind of superpower to really help scale the brand, particularly for a niche product. So founder content formats that work: thought leadership LinkedIn posts, why we built this blog articles, building in public works really well, short form talking head videos, founder podcast clips, interviews, webinars, panels, fireside chats. And the goal is to educate, to challenge assumptions, and to build credibility. You're not constantly trying to sell your product, you're just trying to help the industry. But if you are a marketer and you have tried to get your founder to create content and either they're too busy to do it, or maybe they don't feel comfortable in front of camera, or they just don't have the time, then that's okay. There is still a way around this. You can interview your founder. I'd recommend you interview your founder once a week would be great if they can give you like half an hour a week, or even once a month is okay to get started. So you interview them. If they're happy to be recorded on video, you can record the video. And then you can turn that content you can repurpose it into lots of great content. So if you interview them for half an hour, you've got yourself a long form YouTube video right there. You can also create video snippets. So you've got those short little 60 to 90-second video snippets that can be shared on LinkedIn. A bit like that example I showed you on the previous slide. Blog articles, because if you're interviewing someone on, say, Zoom, you can have a video transcript thing working, like a Otter or Fathom. So if you get someone speaking for half an hour, you'll get about 4,000 words in the transcript. You can easily turn that into a blog, an email newsletter, a LinkedIn post. So just extracting that thought leadership from the founder is a brilliant, brilliant way to create content, even if the founder is too busy to do it themselves. If they don't feel comfortable on video, you can just tell them, this is just an interview, it's not going anywhere, I just need your words. Because otherwise, if you don't have that insight from the founder, your content is going to struggle to have like passion. You're going to create content that's probably just AI, a bit generic. And that's what a lot of your competitors are doing. Your founder is going to be unique, and he or she can really stand out and can really disrupt the industry, as opposed to all of your competitors, or most of them, that are just pumping out generic AI crap. Particularly for small businesses that can help you stand out against those big boys that are all faceless. So yeah, leveraging the founders network is really powerful. I mean, I don't have a particularly niche product, but that is the number one thing that's helped me scale my business from nothing to the first million in revenue. I would say my founder brand was the most powerful thing on that journey. We're now over 2 million in revenue, and it was more other things, which I won't go into. But yeah, that first journey from 0 to first million, founder-led brand is really, really powerful. Number 7, sync ads with outbound for maximum impact. Now, if you have a niche product, sometimes marketing alone, I'm sorry to say, is not going to cut it in terms of being able to rapidly scale the business. You may need to just have marketing, building up that brand awareness, getting people coming onto the site, educating about the problem. But particularly if you are like expensive, kind of enterprise, like 10, 20, 30 grand kind of annual subscriptions, you really need, not always, but having a salesperson is definitely going to help massively. So syncing ads with outbound is how you get maximum impact. So the way that you do it is so sales and marketing working together essentially. So the salesperson, the SDR, will have a list of accounts that they want to be going after: cold calling, cold email, cold LinkedIn DMs. And a lot of you have probably run that before and it hasn't worked, and you've let your salesperson go. It's a very common story because outbound fails because you're just reaching out to this cold audience that never heard of you before. But what you really want to happen is for your salesperson to be reaching out to these people and they go, "Oh, I've heard of you. I've seen you all over my LinkedIn." And you do that with marketing. So you get the SDR, the salesperson, to give the marketing team the list of contacts that they're going to be going after. Then the marketing team can upload that list of contacts and list of companies, stick it in LinkedIn ads, and serve all of those companies and all of the people that the salesperson is about to reach out to next week can say, "Show these people my ads." And then when the salesperson reaches out, hopefully a decent percentage of that will go, "Oh yeah, I know who you are. I've seen you on my LinkedIn. I've even been onto your website. I like what you do." And you can imagine how much more effective a sales conversation is going to go when it starts with that, as opposed to, "Who are you? I've never heard of you before." So really important that you can align sales and marketing together. And when you get that, you get a very happy sales guy like this. Moving on, chapter 8, the final chapter. Validate what works with the test budget. Now, if this is particularly powerful, if you are still a little bit unsure as to who is your ideal customer profile, even if you do feel quite sure, this exercise is also really, really helpful. So if you're, say, unsure as to what is the right industry, what is the right job title, what is the right messaging that's going to resonate best with my audience, yes, you can speak to your existing customers, you can survey the market, and hopefully that will give you the insights that you need. But you can also run a test ad budget as well. Not to try and get conversions, that's more of a bonus. It's more to get signals, get an understanding of who is most interested in this problem that you're solving and your product. So you could say take $1,000 budget and you could run various test campaigns across 2 to 3 ideal customer profiles. And you can run these multiple funnels in parallel. So if you put $1,000 test budget into it, you can do this on LinkedIn ads or you can do it on Meta ads. If you do it on Meta ads, it will go further because it's a much lower cost platform, but the targeting is not so great. So just figure out what is right for you. And you can put, say, $333 into 3 different funnels. So when I say an ICP, that could be a job title, an industry, or possibly a technology that people are using. And you run these ads and you're looking out for clicks, engagement, click-through rate. Obviously, demo requests would be fantastic. Comments, replies, that kind of thing, just to test the water to see which funnel is performing best. And typically, you're going to get one funnel that performs really badly, and you're hopefully going to get one that really stands out. You might get 2 that are kind of a draw, but that at least tells you that this funnel is not the right one to go after. So an example of how I ran that recently for a client is we basically ran a load of different ads with a load of different messaging targeting different audiences, and then we're looking for the click-through rate. So the click-through rate is the percentage of people that saw the ad and clicked on it. So you can see these ads in the bottom 4 row were in the kind of 1% or 0% mark, whereas this ad here at the top really stood out, got 2.21%, double some of the other ads. So that showed me that audience we were going after, that messaging resonated the best. Therefore, that gives me a clue as to this is potentially my best audience to go after. So that's just a very small test, give you a bit of an example, but that's a very, very good exercise to run if you've got a little bit of budget to play with and you're really not sure who your ideal customer profile is yet. So let me summarize for you. I always want my webinars to be actionable so you can take something away and you can actually get stuck into this and help you scale the business and start getting leads. But in summary, you want to stop chasing search demands like Google Ads, SEO. Instead, you want to start focusing on educating the unaware buyers. Because if your product is niche, most of your buyers are going to be unaware of the problem and certainly unaware of your solution. So start with the problem. Lead with the problem. Don't talk too much about your features and your UI at the beginning of the journey. Lead with the problem, introduce the features and the product with retargeting later down the funnel. Challenge the status quo. Make doing nothing look risky. Pick one ICP and go deep before you try to scale broadly. Create a funnel for each segment with tailored pages, ads, calls to action. Get the founder on LinkedIn, share their point of view, build up trust. Run ads to warm accounts before sales does their outbound. And then if you are still a little bit unsure as to who your ICP is, who the right funnel is, you can test 2 to 3 audiences with a 1K budget and double down on what works, obviously. So that is my summary. If you think all of that sounds good, but you don't have the time, you don't have the resources to do all of those things, there's a lot of content creation, there's a lot of ads, you can work with me and my agency, Rocket SaaS, to do that. So we're a specialist SaaS marketing agency. We have a ton of clients who have a niche SaaS marketing product. So we know what we're doing when it comes to creating content that gets cut through, gets people into the funnel and gets conversions happening. So if you are considering speaking to us, you can go onto our website, you can book a free strategy call with me. I'll just have a chat about your brand, your problems, where you guys are at. I'll give you my free, no obligation advice on how you can scale the business and with all the things that I've taught you today, along with other things. And if that sounds good, we can work together. But essentially, we work on full funnel marketing strategy, lead magnet campaigns, Google ads, LinkedIn ads, content creation, landing pages, and also optimizing websites. Those are really the main 6 things that a SaaS business needs to scale. So that's me and some of my team and my dog down the bottom there. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that webinar. I hope that helps you scale the business. If you want any other SaaS marketing tips, I recommend you go onto the Rocket SaaS website, rocket-saas.io. We've got a resources hub with all of our old webinars. If you like this webinar, you can find some old ones that are also really valuable. There's the podcast that goes out weekly. You can sign up to our newsletters to give you more SaaS marketing tips. So we've got a wealth of resources for people like you. So yeah, check that out. And Q&A. So I need to take a drink of water before I go through this Q&A. So first question, is this still relevant for B2C? Yes, it definitely is. If you have a niche product, then yeah, you still need to lead with the problem. If you're targeting a B2C audience and they don't realize that they have a problem, they don't realize that a solution is available, then absolutely lead with the product for sure. Do we get a copy of the slides? No. But I will send the recording to everybody that's registered on this call. A few people asking that question. Is the recording available? Yes. When you say things like you could save, i.e. 100 hours, does this need to be driven by something or can it be a guesstimate? So yeah, so my opinion is that it can be an estimate. You can estimate. You ideally want to be able to estimate this based on results that you've seen for clients. You know, the best form of that kind of message would be someone that you know has done it before. So if you've got a client that has saved a ton of time, you want to get a testimonial from them saying, we saved 75 hours per week with this piece of software. It's brilliant, because that will just carry much more weight. If you put a photo of them next to a case study, it just appears more real. You know, you can say it yourself as long as you're not lying and you genuinely believe that your product could save X number of hours. You can make a statement like that. But yeah, ideally, you're going to have a customer say it on your behalf. But there's nothing wrong with you saying it as long as you can kind of back that up. Next one here. How do you build these stats without case studies or customers? Kind of what I've said. So you can run like, you just need to kind of research the industry. You can survey the market. You can ask them questions like, how much time are you spending per week on this particular, say, project management piece? What tools are you using? And then you can multiply that by the number of employees that they've got. And you can try and get an understanding of, okay, this client or this potential client is spending this much time on this solution or lack of solution. Then you say, just figure out how much time you think they can save. So there's nothing wrong with doing that as long as you're not just point blank lying. And you can put an asterisk next to it to say, you know, estimation based on X, Y, Z. So you need to be brave with your marketing. As long as you're not lying, as long as you genuinely feel and you've done a bit of maths that you've figured out that this solution can do this, then it's okay to do that, in my opinion. Another question here. When does the audience become too small? My biggest audience for people I feel is potentially relevant for both Meta and LinkedIn around 130,000. I can push it to 250,000, but I know that people in that list for whom it's not going to be relevant for. Also, due to the nature of the product, the cost per click is high. It's very easy to burn through that budget. Yeah, so that goes to chapter, I can't remember what chapter number it was, but you need to get niche. So if, presumably you're not going to have a very large budget, so targeting 250,000 people is too big. My other concern about Meta is that the targeting on Meta is very broad. So think about when you registered your Facebook account, however many years ago that was, you didn't enter your job title, what company you worked for, the size of the company, none of that stuff. You just entered your name and your email address and your date of birth. So therefore, Meta doesn't actually know who these people are. Meta's just kind of guessing. So if you say to Meta ads, oh, I want you to target a load of people that work in construction, it's also going to target a load of people that are interested in construction because they like going to B&Q at the weekend, B&Q at the weekends. So just be wary of Meta because it can be very broad. LinkedIn is going to be best for the targeting because you can be very specific with LinkedIn to say only target these job titles who work for these company sizes in these industries. But LinkedIn ads is more expensive. Again, that's why you need to get narrow. So if you've got, say, 130,000 people, try and get that down to below 50,000 and then create more targeted content and your budget will go further. Another one here, interesting one. Our business was founded 30 plus years ago and our founders are in their 80s. Any advice for who we could use instead and how we can get that founder impact? Well, there are going to, if your business was founded 30 years ago, and presumably there's a few of them, a few people in the business, you just need another thought leader, another person in the space that's got passion and charisma and knowledge about your industry and about your product and how it changes things. So yeah, it doesn't have to be the founders. It just needs to be someone that's kind of got that thought leadership and that charisma. So you can it doesn't have to be the founder. How do I feel about AI written blogs and content? So AI should be a tool. AI should not write the thing from nothing. So for example, if you go into ChatGPT and you say, hey, can you write me an article for HR companies and how it, how employee churn is a problem, it's just going to create generic rubbish. However, if instead you interview a thought leader in the business, let's say one of the founders, and you just do a 15-minute interview with them and say, hey, Claire, I want to interview you about employee churn. What do you think about employee churn? How's that changing? How is AI impacting the industry? How is blah, 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 blah? And Claire will give you an amazing monologue because she's a thought leader. You'll use a note taker to extract all of her words. If she's speaking for 15 minutes, you're going to get about 1,500 words from her. It'll be all a bit messy because it's her speaking off the cuff. But then if you put that into ChatGPT and say, I did an interview with Claire, she's an expert in this particular HR space. Can you please write a blog based on the interview transcript here? Then you're going to get a really good blog. So you're using ChatGPT as a tool as opposed to a creation, asset to create the content. Simon says, thanks, that was great. Thank you, Simon. How many times a day, week should you post to get traction or results? Well, it depends on which sort of channel. For me, growing my business, one of the most powerful things that I did was committing to posting on LinkedIn every single weekday. So Monday to Friday, I would post something. So I recommend that if you're growing the founder brand. If you are creating other forms of content like webinars, it'd be great to do a monthly webinar, a monthly guide. You should be doing at least a blog and a newsletter every week or two, a podcast once a week. There's a lot. Basically listed what we do, and we've scaled the business really fast from that. So when you've got your ideal customer profile down and you've understood all of your problems that you want to create content about, you should try and create as much content as you can, well, within reason, so it's not generic crap like I just mentioned earlier. So, but the beauty of AI, if you use it correctly and you use it as a tool, is that you can now create so much content so quickly, whereas previously it would have taken you forever and or cost you a lot of money. What are your thoughts on a new SaaS with a very limited budget? Well, if you have a new SaaS with a very limited budget, then I would say that is where the founder's brand comes into play even more. It doesn't cost you a penny for your founder to be posting stuff on LinkedIn, making connections with other people in the space, writing insightful comments on other people's LinkedIn pages, basically building up a friendship with other people. And then once you've built those friendships, it's very easy to sell to those people. You can even start a podcast. You can invite guests onto the podcast and you can sell to those guests. So there's all sorts of things you can do without ads. But you need to hustle, really. You need to start just doing the sales process on your own, doing cold outreach to people, finding people that could potentially buy from you, sending them DMs on LinkedIn, not those annoying spam bot message DMs. Send them a genuine, insightful DM that's they're going to think that wasn't written by a bot. So if you've got no budget, you need to hustle. Is there a rule around the ratio of founder-led marketing and product-led marketing that is successful? That's a good question. I wouldn't say there's any particular rule that I'm aware of. Just both going at it at the same time. So I think the founder-led marketing is more that educational, top of funnel, helpful, not so much sales stuff in there. One rule that I do like is the 80-20 rule. So if the founder is creating top of funnel thought leadership content, 80% of that content they create should be helpful, educational, not mentioning or selling the product at all. And then 20%, they are promoting the product. So that's the rule that I do like. And obviously product-led marketing is 100% about the product. So that content wouldn't be quite as frequent. It'd be more kind of 2 times a week about the product, rather than just, you can't flood LinkedIn every day with different things about your product. You don't have enough to talk about. So that's generally rules that I follow. Thanks for all these questions, by the way. There's loads. Have you experienced working or selling to schools? Yes, I do actually. So that one, the Rocket SaaS client that I mentioned on one of the slides earlier, called Backup Vault, they do a lot of business with schools. They back up schools' data, because that data is kind of critical to be backed up. And a lot of them are using Microsoft. And so we created a funnel. So Backup Vault, they do backups for any business. So all of you guys on the call, if you don't back up your Microsoft, you don't back up your Google Workspace, you probably should. If you go on their website, just Google Backup Vault, you'll find it. But one of their key demographics is schools. So we basically created a funnel with a load of LinkedIn ads, a landing page that's all targeted about schools, all about the unique challenges that schools have with their data, because obviously their data is different because you're dealing with kids and stuff like that. So there's just different messaging, different pain points, and we just basically created a funnel. And then we also, what's quite easy about targeting schools is that you can just literally Google every school in the country and you can easily get a list, what we call an ABM list, to say, I want to target exactly these companies. So we can serve ads to those. We can do email newsletters, cold outbound, like you can just get very targeted. So yeah, schools, there's definitely a decent, good, easy targeting, I would say. Making another question here from Adrian. Making a podcast to educate my audience will be okay to talk about my solution. Well, yeah, but I would say if you're doing a podcast and you want to talk about your solution, I would do it as a call to action at the end of every podcast. Nobody wants to listen to a podcast of you talking about your solution. What they do want to listen to a podcast is you teaching people how to solve a problem, or you educating them about something that's new that's happening in the industry, or giving your unique opinion or perspective on something. And then at the end of the episode, you say, if you found that insightful about this problem that I just taught you about, you're going to love my product. This is what it does. If you'd like to book a demo, come onto our website. So that's what I do with my podcast. If you check out my podcast, SaaS Marketing Weekly, I never talk about Rocket SaaS as an agency and why you should hire us to be your marketing partner. I just help people solve a problem. And then at the end, the call to action, I sometimes forget, but most of my episodes, I'll do a little shout out to Rocket SaaS, or a lead magnet, actually, is often more effective, to say, I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode of the podcast. I've got a webinar coming up in 2 weeks' time. You should sign up here, or you should download my ebook, or you should use my assessment tool, or whatever, because then you're getting people into the funnel. The problem with podcasts is that you don't know who they are. You don't have their email address. The next step should be to try and get them into the funnel. So that's where kind of lead magnets come in. Another one here. How do you recognize who is top of funnel and who is middle of funnel, bottom of funnel? Can you see individual details? Who has viewed your website? Yeah, well, generally, no. You don't know where people are at in the funnel until they actually get there. sorry, you don't know who they are in the funnel until they fill out a form. That's what I'm trying to say. So you don't, with the whole demand generation philosophy, people consume top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel. You don't know who they are until they book that call or do that lead magnet. Yes, there are tools that can tell you supposedly like who's been on your website. It will never tell you their name and email. It'll tell you their company name. It's not always very accurate, but essentially, my philosophy about marketing is you just need to create a lot of content at the top of the funnel, educational, middle of funnel, things like case studies, testimonials, lead magnets, bottom of funnel about your solution, and just let people flow through that funnel. No, you won't understand exactly who they are until they fill out the form, but that's fine. Let them come to you when they're ready. If you create enough content, they will. Rather than trying to force them to fill out forms, gating your pricing or gating something else and when they don't really want to fill out the form, it's just annoying. So demand generation is more about giving away stuff for free. Do you have an AI agent that I can connect with and apply that knowledge here to be tailored to my business? That's a good question. I think you're asking me, do I have an AI agent that's got all of my knowledge? No, well, I have my own one that I use for myself when I create content, but not a publicly available one, if I've understood that correctly. So many questions here. We've gone over time. Fine with me. Actually, do I have another meeting? I don't think so. No. If you ask AI to improve a human written article, will it be picked up as AI content? Well, good question. I think it depends how much it changes it. It will probably come up and say it's 40% written by AI, but yeah, I'm not really sure on the kind of SEO seems to be changing all the time with AI content. I think Google are in the process of changing things when it comes to SEO because they know that so much content is being created with AI. So I'm hearing that Google is not punishing AI content as much as it used to, but I'm not an expert on that. It certainly needs to because everyone's using it as a tool now, aren't they? What tool can I use to send bulk messages on LinkedIn to potential clients directly? So I use a tool called Meet Alfred, which I think is one of the leaders in the space. Asterisk, LinkedIn says you're not allowed to use it, supposedly. It breaks their rules. I don't really know. But my advice is with sending bulk messages, some of you, there's 300 odd people on this call. Some of you would have attended this because I sent you a message on LinkedIn, and I did use a bot. I confess I used a bot to basically message all of my first connections on LinkedIn to say, hey, first name, as you are, job title, at blah, blah, blah. I've got a webinar coming up. I think you might really like it. Here's a register link. And I've had a lot of success with getting webinar signups using LinkedIn DMs. I don't use it for anything else because I just hate those annoying bot LinkedIn DMs. You probably all do. I only use it when I want to send people something genuinely valuable and free, like a webinar invitation. I don't use it to say, oh, hey, would you like to have a virtual coffee? Or, hey, book a demo of my product. It's amazing. Everybody hates those. They just, I can't believe they work. They may have worked like 10 years ago when they first came out, but my attitude is only use those bot messages if you've genuinely got something good to send someone for free. How do you run personal LinkedIn alongside the LinkedIn company page? Do you post the same thing side by side or different? So in my opinion, which I feel very strongly about, it's not even an opinion, it's a fact, is that LinkedIn company pages do not perform very well. Let me stop sharing. Yeah, LinkedIn company pages do not perform particularly well, particularly for B2B SaaS brands. Nobody wants to follow a B2B SaaS brand on LinkedIn, the company page. It's boring, unless you're going to create really entertaining content or you're something like HubSpot, like a huge business, you're just not going to do it. However, people love to follow other people on LinkedIn. So if you are a small business, you want to put like 95 of your organic attention on LinkedIn into your personal brand. Just keep your LinkedIn company page ticking over, like one post every week or two, but it's really not going to generate you leads, your LinkedIn company page. So just keep it ticking over until you scale the business and you've got the resource to do that. All of the focus really should be into your personal brand. That's the best advice I can give you for LinkedIn organic content. Another one here. We have partnered with associations for backing, trust building. Is there any specific type of content that they should be posting about on our behalf? Okay, so you've partnered with someone specific content they should be creating on your behalf. Well, it's probably going to be a lead magnet, is what I would say. I think if you get a partner to create a post or an email newsletter to say, oh, this is a great software, you should sign up, you're unlikely to get much from that unless they can offer some kind of super discount to their members. That I've seen that work well, but generally, because it's going out to a cold audience, that cold audience is going to go, demo of this product, never heard of them, not going to do that. However, if you say to your partner, let's do a webinar together, we'll be one host, you'll be the co-host, we'll align on this particular topic. Can you send an email newsletter and a LinkedIn message and whatever else to market this webinar? Then that's a brilliant tool. So that means that your business will get a load of signups of people that follow your partner, and it's cost you nothing. So like this webinar, I've spent loads of money on ads and whatever else, outreach to get people signing up. If I had a co-host on here that had a massive following and they just posted it to their network and it brought their network to my webinar, I've just got hundreds of signups and it's not cost me anything. And it's new people that never heard of me before. So yeah, lead magnet would be my recommendation when you're working with partners. Another question about schools. How is LinkedIn for particular role finding? This is my main concern when doing LinkedIn marketing. Well, LinkedIn is fantastic for roles. You can literally select the different job titles that you want to go after. I think the industry is called like education, like higher education, further education. So you can definitely target universities and other schools. But you don't have to do role. You can do like seniority. So yeah, LinkedIn is very good for that. It's only better than anything else. Would you always ask for an email for a lead magnet? I wonder if this puts people off. Well, yeah, I mean, there's two kind of schools of thought about this, really. For webinars, you obviously have to offer you have to give the email address, which is kind of helpful that you automatically get those leads. My opinion on ebooks is that you shouldn't gate those behind a form. You want people to consume your content and come to you when they're ready to buy. You'll hear a lot of marketing experts, myself included, that have run gated ebooks with the form before you access the ebook. I've done it for loads of clients in the past, done it for my own business in the past. I've heard other people talk about it loads. It just doesn't really work. Yes, you get a load of email addresses. Yes, you can annoy them with nurturing emails. Do they actually turn into sales calls? Generally, no. Maybe like 0.5% or something. So you're much better off by giving the ebook away for free, where people don't have to fill out the form, meaning far more people will actually read the ebook, because a lot of people will look at that form and go, no. So you're going to like triple or quadruple the number of people that see the ebook, and then they will know who to come to when they're ready. The whole philosophy of demand generation is like, let people come to you when they're ready. You can't force someone to buy something. And the more you force people, the more you annoy them, which might turn them away altogether. Another one here. Should we have a different newsletter for different stages in the funnel? Not really. You probably don't really want to have like multiple different newsletters. But no, it should just be one newsletter. And the newsletter really should be a mixture of top, middle, bottom of funnel. So my newsletter, for example, if you go to saasmarketingweekly.com, that's my newsletter brand. My company is called Rocket SaaS, but my newsletter is like a different brand, same as my podcast. So I probably post about 80% top of funnel, meaning 80% of my newsletters, podcast is helpful educational content. Then about 15% of my posts are middle of funnel, like promoting webinars, showing case studies. And then about 5% I'm doing bottom of funnel in terms of saying, my business is great, work with us kind of thing. So yeah, I'd keep it as one, but the reason the funnel is shaped like that for a reason is because you do more stuff at the top, less stuff at the middle, and a little bit at the bottom. That's kind of how I'd look at it. Lots of nice compliments. Thank you very much. How would you go about lead sharing if you co-host a webinar or podcast? Yes, good question. You can't really do lead sharing if you co-host a podcast because you don't get any leads. But with the webinar, you want the webinar to be yours, not your partner's. So you want the webinar to be on your website. your form, you get the leads, so it belongs to you. As opposed to the other way around, and then you've got to try and get the leads from them, and then you get into a little bit of a difficult GDPR thing where it's like, am I allowed to give these leads to you? I think I'm not a GDPR expert, but you would essentially have to inform the person when they register. They have to tick a box to say your data will be shared with this company as well, which is kind of annoying. So yeah, ideally you would host the webinar, you would have the form, you get the leads, and you say to your partner, I'll promote you in the email kind of thing. A lot of people don't do that. A lot of people ignore GDPR, but that's generally the rules, I think. What is the guidance when someone asks to subscribe to a newsletter? It can't all be ungated. When is the right time to push this? Well, yeah, you want to just create a lot of assets at the top of the funnel that is ungated. So blogs, videos, LinkedIn posts, yeah, just YouTube videos, video snippets, and then people consume your content for free without filling out any forms. And they go, I like that person. I know them. I like them. I trust them. I want more. So you keep the more in your newsletter, something that is gated, or a webinar. So the thing that is gated has to be more valuable. You need to entice them in. So when you're creating that free content, you'd be like, if you like this content, you're really going to love my newsletter. You've got to fill out your email address. So there we go. That's the end. I've got my door shut and my window closed to try and keep the noise down, so I am sweating. But I think you guys enjoyed that webinar. I've got a ton of comments, which is always a good sign. So thank you so much for attending. I will send the recording out to everybody that's been on this call. And yeah, if you want support in doing this, if it's too much for you to do, if you've got the budget to pay an agency to do it, like Rocket SaaS, go on to rocket-sas.io. You can book a free strategy call with me, and we can talk about your niche SaaS products and how we can help it scale. But thank you so much. Have a great rest of the day and catch up soon.